my gosh, guys, is that Dream? Wait a second, but I'm Dream. These are the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns of all time. This first speedrun begins, and right away, there's already something fake about it. No, it doesn't have anything to do with this spawn, as the runner is facing perfectly straight. And it's not his game mode either, as the runner is in survival with 0 XP. But let's take an extremely close look at this speedrunner's world generation. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? If you play his world generation frame by frame, you can actually see there's one single frame where the runner is selecting the second slot in their inventory. This is something that's impossible, as you will always spawn in selecting the first slot of your inventory. This actually proves the runner edited his world generation and likely means he's using a set seed, which will become extremely obvious later in the run. Well, giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, the rest of his spawn is fairly normal, as the runner collects some wood, crafts a couple tools, and makes his way to a nearby village. All pretty legit. But the runner then finds one of the luckiest structures I've literally ever seen, because he finds a shipwreck in the middle of a village house. Now, I almost thought this dude found the world's luckiest seed until I realized this part of the speedrun is completely fake, because after a quick search on YouTube, I actually found this exact same seed in a YouTube video titled The Best New Village Seeds for Minecraft 1.20. And now it's confirmed that the runner is using a set seed, which is why he faked his world generation earlier in the run. So, after locating this insanely overpowered structure, the run continues with the speedrunner going to loot a chest in this village house. And at a first glance, it may appear as though all of the loot in this chest is completely normal, as the runner collects bread, iron, and even apples, all normal items. But the runner also finds a clock in the corner of the chest. But this isn't a normal clock, but a time clock that gives the runner the ability to freeze time? Remember this for later. So, after looting a few more chests, killing the iron golem, and collecting some hay, the runner needs to find a lava pool to craft a nether portal. And giving him credit, he actually locates one fairly quickly in a nearby cave. But as the runner is working on creating his portal, take a very close look at this ore. On the surface, it may look like this is simply a normal piece of redstone. However, this block is actually incredibly fake, because after the runner notices it and goes to mine it, he collects a ruby? Is that even a real Minecraft item? Well, he doesn't only find one piece of ruby ore, but an entire vein of ruby ore. And after collecting 24 pieces, he literally crafts an entire set of ruby armor. How many Minecraft updates did I miss? So, with a full set of ruby armor equipped, the runner finishes creating his portal, crafts flint and steel, and makes his way into the nether. And this is when the speedrunner attempts to cheat in one of the worst ways possible. I'll just play the footage. Yes, the runner spawned into the nether, and after 4 seconds, there's the world's most obvious cut, and he's now somehow directly in front of a fortress. There is no way he thinks he's fooling anyone. So, with the runner magically spawning directly in front of a fortress, he quickly makes his way inside of it. But prepare yourself, because instead of finding blazes in the fortress, you can't be serious. The runner finds skibbity toilet mobs. Since when was brain rot added to Minecraft? Well, the runner starts fighting literal toilets in Minecraft, and by some miracle, they actually drop blaze rods. I genuinely do not know what to say. Well, after the runner kills a few more skibbity toilets, he ends up with 6 blaze rods, meaning he only needs to collect 1 more before he can travel to a bastion. But that's when, out of nowhere, appears a giant skibbity toilet, which actually kills the speedrunner. Like, literally, what is going on? So, after getting destroyed by the world's biggest skibbity toilet, the runner decides he's going to respawn. And of course, after one of the world's most obvious cuts, he finds a chest right in front of him with all of his items and the exact amount of blaze rods that he needs, which is totally legit. So, after getting his items back, the runner returns to the Nether, where he begins his search for a bastion. But after only a couple minutes of searching, the runner simply can't seem to locate one. Well, as the runner is seemingly searching for the bastion, take a very close look at this wall. If you pay close attention, you'll actually notice these two blocks sticking out of the wall, which is something that clearly doesn't spawn naturally in vanilla Minecraft. Well, the runner moves closer towards this weird wall, where he pulls out his pickaxe, starts to break these two strange blocks, which reveals a tunnel all the way to the bastion. What type of cursed block did he just break? So, after somehow locating the bastion, the run continues by the speedrunner locating some gold blocks, crafting some gold ingots, and searching for some piglins to trade with. But let's just say, the runner finds some strange looking piglins in the bastion. Are those diamond piglins? Seriously, how many updates have I missed? Well, along with these piglins literally being diamond, they drop the speedrunner a full set of diamond tools, diamond armor, and even a full stack of diamond blocks. And along with this array of overpowered diamond gear, they also give the speedrunner a full stack of ender pearls. This is starting to hurt my brain. So, after collecting 16 pearls and 7 blaze rods, he should head back towards the overworld. But this guy must be new to speedrunning, because he decides he's going to start creating a portal out of hay. And don't worry, this clearly isn't going to work. Oh my gosh, it actually worked. But wait, let's actually take a closer look and see what really happened. Because if you slow down this footage and play it frame by frame, take a very close look into the bottom left corner of the screen, where we can clearly see a command revealing the runner spawned in these nether portal frames himself. If you haven't caught on, the runner didn't actually create a nether portal with hay, but instead used a Minecraft command to spawn in the portal himself. Unfortunately, this guy's a terrible editor and reveals the entire thing. So, after quote-unquote creating a hay portal, the runner finally makes his way into the overworld. And if I have to give him credit, he does locate the strongholds pretty normally, without cheating or any suspicious activity. But that's about the last real thing he does in the speedrun, because he actually cheats once again during his search for the end portal room. And let me know if you can spot exactly what he does. Did you notice it? Well, as the runner is looking throughout the stronghold, take a very close look at the floor, where you can actually spot stone pressure plates in various locations around the strongholds. First off, not only is it clearly impossible for pressure plates to spawn naturally, but secondly, we can clearly see the runner followed these pressure plates all the way to the end portal room. And if you couldn't tell, these pressure plates were clearly placed by the runner off camera. So, the runner enters the end portal room, but things just get even worse. Because first, the runner doesn't find a silverfish spawner, something that will always spawn in the end portal room. And secondly, when he goes to the portal, it already has 12 eyes of ender filled in, which if you weren't aware, has over a 1 in 1 trillion chance of happening, which is code for this is completely fake. So, the runner enters the fully lit end portal, and here's where things get insane. Do you remember when the runner found this strange clock in a village chest earlier in the run? Well, the runner pulls it out, and after clicking it, he literally pauses time, which freezes the ender dragon and every single enderman in a place. And with the dragon unable to move and frozen while he's perched, it's pretty obvious that the speedrunner absolutely destroys him. This next speedrun begins, and come on, you gotta be kidding me. In the bottom left corner of the screen, we can clearly see the message set on game mode to survival, which means the runner has already been on this world before he started recording. And not to mention, if you take a closer look at his inventory, the runner is actually selecting the 5th slot, when everybody knows you're supposed to be selecting the 1st slot. There's already a ton of suspicious stuff with this speedrun, so let's proceed with caution. Anyway, the speedrun begins, and hold on a second. Did you see that? While the runner runner is casually running towards this tree, he suddenly loses half of his hunger. Now, not only does this mean the speedrunner cheated by having a cut in his recording, but losing 5 bars of hunger must have meant the speedrunner was off camera for quite a long time, so we need to keep that in mind. Anyway, the run continues with the speedrunner chopping down this tree, making a crafting table to craft wooden and stone tools, and heading towards this innocent looking nearby village. But just because a village looks innocent doesn't mean it actually is. Because when the runner turns the corner, what the bejesus? The runner finds the world's tallest village house, which appears to be 4 stories high. And if I had to guess, the runner must have wasted a ton of time building this off camera, which is definitely the reason why he lost so much hunger. Well, with this super village house being 4 stories high, the runner of course finds 4 different chests. And thankfully, the first 3 chests contain some pretty standard items that would normally spawn here. However, let's take a look at what the runner finds in the 4th chest. Okay, thank gosh. There's some pretty normal stuff in here. Wait a second. What the heck is a poisonous potato launcher? Did I forget to read the patch notes? Is this a part of the new update? Well, the runner grabs this strange item from the village chest along with his other items. And when he goes to shoot it, what the heck? He starts shooting poisonous potatoes that explode on contact with the ground and starts destroying an entire population of villagers. There is no way this is a real Minecraft item. Well, after terrorizing an entire village, the run continues with the speedrunner fighting the iron golem. Now, it might just be me, but it feels like it's taking a lot longer than usual for the runner to kill the golem. But that isn't all, because when the runner finally manages to kill it, just take a look at what this golem drops. Along with iron ingots and a rose, both normal items, the iron golem also drops a compass. But it looks like this isn't your ordinary compass, because this compass is called the Ruins Portal Locator. Can someone tell me which update they added this item in? Well, the runner collects his loot from the iron golem when he grabs the Ruins Portal Locator. And somehow, after following the direction of the compass, he decides to dig down at this exact block. But this portal locator must be broken, because instead of digging straight into a Ruins Portal room, the runner actually falls right into lava and actually dies. I guess that's what he deserves for cheating throughout the speedrun. So, the runner decides to continue his speedrun, so he clicks the respawn button and starts to collect a new set of items. But wait a second, the runner actually just cheated, and did you catch it? Because take a very close look at the exact location where the runner respawned into. Got it? Well, if we go back to the very beginning of the speedrun, notice how his spawn location is completely different. In Minecraft, when you die, you will automatically respawn at the world's spawn point. And because the runner spawned in a completely different location than his spawn point, that actually means this isn't his real spawn, and his world generation was completely fake. So, after respawning, the runner collects a fresh set of tools, goes to the same village and collects some important loot before finally locating an actual Ruins portal. But wait a second, did you just catch the small thing the runner just did to cheat? Well, let's slow down the footage and take a closer look at what happens when the runner opens the portal chest. As you can clearly see, when the runner goes to open it, his character actually moves slightly to the right. The only explanation is that there was yet another cut in the speedrunner's recording, which is proven further by his timer jumping ahead nearly 7 seconds. So, when this speedrunner finds the exact amount of obsidian he needs to complete the portal, I think everybody can tell he cut his video and placed those extra blocks off camera. So, the runner completes the portal, and he finally makes his way into the nether, where the runner begins his search to locate a nether fortress. But that's when the runner comes across the world's goofiest looking fortress. What in the Timu Minecraft fortress even is this? Wait, my bad guys. It has a sign clearly stating fortress, so it must be real. Well, the runner enters the quote-unquote nether fortress, where he actually manages to locate a blaze pretty quickly. But this blaze doesn't look normal. What the heck? This might be the goofiest speedrun I've literally ever seen. Well, instead of fighting this blaze with an axe or a sword like a real speedrunner would, this speedrunner pulls out some shears from their inventory, killing the blaze, which reveals a chest at the bottom with 7 blaze rods, the exact amount that he needs. So, with 7 blaze rods in his inventory, the runner starts to search for a nearby bastion. But on the way, the runner finds this random line of chests on the ground. And, being curious, when the runner goes to open one of them, he finds a pink tulip. Not gonna lie, I don't exactly know what's going on. Well, not only does the first chest have a pink tulip, but so does every single chest that he opens. And the cherry on top is that these chests actually form a line directly into a bastion. Now, you're probably wondering what the runner could possibly do with these random pink tulips he has in his inventory. Well, when the runner locates a group of nearby piglins, he decides to start throwing the tulips straight at them. Okay, I don't want to make fun of this guy, but I think everybody knows piglins don't trade with flowers. Wait, what? The piglins start making trades with pink tulips? I couldn't have missed this many updates. Well, not only do the piglins literally trade with the flower, but they actually give the speedrunner some pretty good loot, including 12 ender pearls and 12 pieces of obsidian, the exact amount of each item he needs to move on with the speedrun. So, the runner grabs his items from the piglins and moves towards an open area so he can start building his nether portal. But the runner starts doing something incredibly weird, because why is the runner crafting a flat nether portal? Did he mix up what an end portal and a nether portal look like? Well, unfortunately for the speedrunner, nether portals can only work if they are facing up. But the runner pulls out some flint and steel to try anyway. What? Look, I'll replay the footage. The runner just lit a facing down nether portal. I think I may be losing brain cells. So, the runner enters this strange portal where he finally spawns back into the overworld. But this is when things just get straight impossible, because the runner makes the decision to not craft a single Eye of Ender, even though he needs them to locate the end portal room. But instead, he decides to pull out some leftover bread from earlier in the run. And somehow, when he clicks the bread, it flies in the air exactly like an Eye of Ender, and literally starts directing the speedrunner straight to the strongholds. I've ran out of things to say. So, using a literal loaf of bread, the runner locates the exact position of the strongholds, where he quickly digs down and enters into it. And at first, everything looks fairly normal as the runner starts to search for the end portal room. But that's when the runner comes across this door, which is clearly not a door that naturally spawns in a stronghold. But when the runner opens it, he finds a secret path leading directly into the end portal room. Yeah, this isn't a real Minecraft feature. So, the runner enters the end portal room, but this is when things get weird. Because even though the runner clearly has enough rods and pearls in their inventory to craft Eyes of Ender, the runner still strangely decides not to, and instead uses these 3 iron ingots to craft a bucket and starts to collect lava from this pool, where he starts filling in the end portal? I've never seen this strategy before. Well, the runner places the lava so that it fills the entire end portal and jumps in, somehow actually teleporting into the end. What? And after this, the runner has the audacity to type in the chat that this lava end portal was simply a new update. And at this point, I'm just gonna believe him. So, the runner enters the end, and at a first glance, everything does look fairly normal. All the end crystals are still on the pillars, the runner is still in survival mode with the same amount of XP, and his inventory is filled with completely normal items. But when the runner travels towards the surface, what in tarnation? He finds the end pit stop, and inside, the runner of course finds a chest with every single item he'd ever need to fight the dragon. So, the runner grabs his items, and after waiting for the dragon to perch, he attempts to kill it using some of his beds. But somehow, after the runner tries to break one of the beds, he literally gets launched into the air and dies to fall damage. And the run just cuts off there. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning right next to a village. And while that could be seen as suspicious, it's actually pretty common to find a village when spawning in a plains biome. And to add on, the runner is facing perfectly straight, and he doesn't have any weird items in his inventory. However, there's one extremely tiny detail about this runner's spawn that actually proves it's fake. Because if you go back to this speedrunner's loading screen before he generated the world, tell me if you notice what setting proves this spawn was fake. Well, if you look closely at the generate structures option, you can actually see the runner accidentally switched it to off. And because the runner spawned directly next to a village, we know he cheated. And the footage of him generating his world and his spawn are actually two different clips edited together. And the runner clearly did this so he could start off right next to a village. Either way, the run begins, and things honestly feel pretty normal to me, as the runner makes his way to a nearby tree to gather some wood, makes himself a couple of tools, and heads into the nearby village. But as the runner makes his way into the village, move your focus towards the chat, where it appears as though the runner actually gets an achievement on his way in. And while that may look completely normal, this achievement actually proves the runner has cheated once again, because as you can clearly see, this achievement is called the Ice Bucket Challenge, which is actually the achievement for collecting a piece of obsidian in Minecraft. The problem is, we can clearly see the runner doesn't have a single piece of obsidian anywhere in their inventory, which actually means this achievement was obtained by a completely different player, and the runner is actually playing on a multiplayer server, something that's clearly not allowed on a solo speedrun, and remember it for later. So, the runner enters the village, where he starts off by gathering some hay to make bread and collecting a couple of beds. But, as the runner is looking at trades from some of the villagers, take a closer look into the right corner of the screen, where we can actually see what appears to be an iron golem being built out of thin air. And, if you zoom in even further, you'll actually notice these white particles floating in the air, clearly coming from the use of an invisibility potion being used. So if you couldn't tell, these particles are coming from the same person we saw get the achievement just a few seconds ago, and he's likely building a second iron golem to help out the speedrunner. And our suspicion is actually confirmed because when the runner attacks this very golem, he doesn't fight back at all, which is something that's only possible from a golem that was spawned in with blocks. So, after looting a few more chests from the village, the runner begins his search for a ruined portal. But, on his way, the runner accidentally opens his F3 menu for half a second, which accidentally reveals he's cheating once again. Because if you look into the top left corner, we can literally see the runner is using the fabric loader, a loader for Minecraft mods. This guy is terrible at cheating. So, the runner continues his search for a ruins portal, and suddenly, it appears as though he knows the exact direction one is located in, and giving him credit, he must have had a good feeling, because he actually locates one just a couple of seconds later. But, to almost nobody's surprise, the speedrunner actually cheated once again, and this part of the speedrun is completely fake. Because if you pause the footage at this frame, take a very close look at this piece of grass. Well, this type of grass is actually called seagrass. The problem is, this type of grass can only spawn underwater. And if you play the footage, the runner clearly digs down directly next to this grass, directly into the ruins portal room. So I think it's pretty obvious this piece of seagrass was placed by the runner's friend to remind him exactly where to dig down to locate a ruins portal. But what's even crazier is after testing in my own Minecraft world, it isn't even possible to place seagrass anywhere but inside water. So not only did the runner cheat by marking out the location of a ruins portal, I have literally no clue how he managed to place seagrass on a piece of dirt. So, the runner digs down, locates the ruined portal, and goes to loot the ruined portal chest. Now I know what you're thinking, this chest has to contain some fake items due to this speedrunner's cheating history. However, to my surprise, literally every single item in this chest is 100% normal, as the runner collects some items such as gold ingots, obsidian, and flint, all standard items. However, the items in this ruined portal chest almost seem too perfect, as if the runner is using using it as a distraction to cheat in some other way. Well, my suspicion is actually confirmed, because as the runner appears to be moving items from the chest to his inventory, let's take a closer look at the portal, where we can clearly see obsidian blocks being added out of thin air. And this is clearly being built by the speedrunner's friend, the same one who built a golem for the runner just a bit earlier. And the cherry on top is after his friend placed a couple of extra blocks on the portal, the runner now of course has the exact amount of obsidian he needs to complete it. So, the runner completes the portal, lights it, and spawns into the nether. Now, you're probably expecting the runner to search for a bastion or maybe even a fortress, but the runner instead comes across the nether temple? Oh my gosh, this can't be a new update, is it? Well, the runner enters inside the nether temple, and it looks absolutely insane. And of course, just like in a normal desert pyramid, when the runner breaks this block, he falls down into a room full of chests. But something must be glitched with this insane looking nether pyramid, because instead of finding some overpowered items in the chests, he instead finds a dirt block? What's going on? Well, not only does the first chest have a dirt block, but so does every single chest in the nether pyramid. And this must have really upset the speedrunner, because he starts to absolutely rage.
No, bro.
Well, after getting 4 dirt blocks from the nether temple, the runner quickly makes his way out of it before starting to search for a nether fortress. But as the speedrunner is running throughout the nether, take a very close look at his inventory, where it appears as though he has magically acquired a fire resistance potion in his very last slot. And this is incredibly suspicious, considering we clearly saw he didn't find a single potion all speedrun. Well, let's play this part of the footage in slow motion, and I want you to tell me if you notice what's fake about it. Did you catch that? As the runner is casually running throughout the nether, take a very detailed look at this block, where if you look carefully, you'll actually notice there's a pressure plate on top of it. And first off, I don't even know how that's possible, because there literally isn't even a netherrack pressure plate block in vanilla Minecraft. But secondly, as soon as we see the runner step on the pressure plate, you can actually hear the sound of a dropper go off, and a potion of fire resistance magically appears in the runner's inventory. And it's pretty obvious the runner's friend, who has been helping him cheat all speedrun, built some sort of dropper contraption to give the runner fire resistance. So, with a fire resistance potion in his inventory, the runner eventually locates a fortress, where he quickly drinks it and starts to fight some of the blazes. And thank gosh, because for the first time in the entire speedrun, something perfectly normal happens, as the runner gets the standard 1 rod per blaze that he kills, and he collects 8 rods pretty quickly. But things only get worse when the runner makes his way to a nearby bastion, because right away, when the runner opens the very first chest, he finds an iron pickaxe, which is an item that doesn't actually spawn naturally in any bastion chests. And secondly, when the runner is casually mining this gold block, if you look into the left corner of the screen, you can quite literally see the runner's friend placing gold blocks for the runner to break. And he must have given up trying to hide his cheating, because he isn't even using a potion of invisibility. Well, with a bunch of extra gold blocks for the runner to mine, he quickly crafts some gold ingots and starts to trade with a group of piglins. But hold on, these piglins start giving the runner some items that are quite literally impossible. A netherite sword, diamond armor, even eyes of ender? How are the piglins giving the runner these items? Well, if we move ahead to just a minute later, when the runner accidentally tabs out of Minecraft, you can literally see that the speedrunner has its mods folder open, and inside is a Minecraft mod that's called Configurable Extra Mob Drops. So if you couldn't tell, the runner is clearly using this mod to get some overpowered items from the piglins. So, with some amazing Minecraft items and enough pearls to continue with the speedrun, the runner quickly starts to build another portal and heads back to the overworlds. But this is when the runner randomly decides to add in a face cam into the bottom left corner of the screen, which is incredibly odd considering he hasn't used it a single time all speedrun. Well, besides that, the runner actually locates the position of the stronghold very quickly, where after digging down, he enters it with no problems. But hold on, and let's rewind the footage, because you guessed it, the runner cheated once again. Because let's take a closer look at what happens when the runner randomly decides to add in his face cam. If you play the footage frame by frame, you'll actually notice one single frame where we can clearly see the runner used a /locate command for the strongholds. And just one frame later, the runner decided to add in his face cam. So if you couldn't tell, the runner clearly added in this random face cam to try to hide the fact that he used a /locate command. And we could all see that he cheated. So, the runner enters the strongholds, where after looting a few chests, he makes his way to the end portal room. But when he enters it, you gotta be kidding me. The same friend who we have literally seen throughout the run is waiting for him with a full set of netherite armor and an enchanted bow. Are they even trying to hide that they're cheating? So, the runner lights the portal, him and his friend jump in and spawn into the end, where everything actually looks pretty normal. The runner's in survival mode, he has his first slot selected, the dragon is at full health. Hold on, what am I saying? The runner is literally in the end with his friend during a solo speedrun. There isn't anything normal about his spawn. And when the runner goes to the surface, you can clearly see his friend just flying around and breaking all of the crystals. And not only that, but after he breaks all the crystals, the speedrunner's friend places down a chest, and inside is some of the most overpowered items in Minecraft history. And with all of this overpowered loot and 2 people, it's pretty easy for them to kill the dragon. But my question is, which one of them gets credit for beating the speedrun? This next speedrun begins, and you gotta be kidding me. If you look very closely into the bottom left corner of the screen, you can see the faintest message of a player joining the world, which if you didn't already know, actually proves the runner is playing on a multiplayer server, something that's clearly banned from a solo speedrun. And it's hilarious because the runner clearly tried to change his menu to a smaller size, hoping we wouldn't see this message in the chat. Either way, besides the runner being on a server, I guess the rest of his spawn is fairly normal, as the runner is in survival mode without any strange items in his inventory. But hold on a second, let's take a closer look at his crosshair. In a real Minecraft speedrun, you will always spawn in facing perfectly straight and parallel to the surrounding blocks. However, we can actually see this runner's crosshair is facing slightly to the left, which also means the runner has faked his world generation and could be using a set seed. The speedrun hasn't even started and this guy has already cheated twice. Well, the run begins and the speedrunner starts off by collecting some wood, crafts himself a couple of tools, where you'd then probably expect him to head into this nearby village. However, the runner instead decides to head to this very specific area of sand where he somehow locates buried treasure. Now, it is technically possible to locate buried treasure without a map using a process involving the Minecraft pie chart. However, I think it's pretty obvious the runner didn't use a single pie chart, and instead he simply already knew the location of this treasure, which basically confirms he's on a set seed, and that's why he faked his world generation. So, after looting the buried treasure, the runner finally decides to head into a nearby village. But as the runner is collecting some extra wood, take a look at the right corner of the screen, where you can literally see the same player who we saw join the world, killing the iron golem in plain sight without an invisibility potion. And I think the runner realized he accidentally showed his friend because he immediately starts running in the other direction. Well, ignoring that mistake, I guess the speedrunner actually does some fairly normal stuff, like collecting beds and crafting some bread for throughout the speedrun. But of course, when the runner goes to fight the iron golem, he's clearly already been damaged. And as a way to try to play it off, the runner starts explaining in chat that his aura has damaged the iron golem. I'm sorry, but I don't think this speedrunner has an ounce of aura after faking his world generation so terribly. Well, after killing an iron golem that's already been damaged, the runner collects his iron before starting to search for a lava pool to craft another portal. But let's quickly make note of the fact that at this part of the speedrun, he clearly uses all 6 ingots from the golem and buried treasure to craft an iron axe and a bucket. Anyway, the runner finally locates a lava pool where he uses his bucket and starts making the shape of a portal. But when the runner opens his inventory this time, he magically finds an extra iron ingot, even though we just saw him use all 6 to craft his bucket and iron axe. And I think it's pretty obvious the runner got this extra ingot off camera, as he forgot he needed it to craft flint and steel. So, the runner finishes creating the portal, where he lights it and spawns into the nether, where he immediately begins searching for a nether fortress. But as he's searching, take a very close look at this part of the footage, because on the surface, it may look like the speedrunner's gameplay simply lagged and everything is normal. However, after this short lag spike, take a closer look at the runner's inventory, where he suddenly acquired a fire resistance potion in the 7th slot. And as we could very obviously see, this exact same slot had a wooden pickaxe just a few seconds ago. So I'm not entirely sure how, but I think the runner might have accidentally lagged on purpose so he could get the fire resistance and hoped we wouldn't notice. So, after somehow getting fire resistance and locating a nether fortress, it'll be pretty easy for the runner to fight blazes without taking any damage. But before the runner can enter the fortress, what? He sees a wall with 9 empty item frames, and the same player we saw damaging the iron golem standing right next to him. And with this runner clearly being confused, this player explains in chat that for the runner to enter the fortress, he must beat him in tic-tac-toe? You gotta be kidding me. Well, the runner pulls out some extra bread from their inventory and actually makes the first move, going in the direct center. However, the runner's friend counters, playing in the top left corner. And unfortunately, after a couple of moves later, the speedrunner actually loses the game, and his friend immediately pulls out a sword and starts trying to kill him. Well, the runner luckily manages to escape his friend, but he now has to locate an entirely new fortress. And thankfully, this one that he finds doesn't have tic-tac-toe at the entrance, so he drinks his fire resistance potion and starts to fight the blazes. But the runner does something extremely sneaky, which actually helps him cheat and get a few extra blaze rods. Because as the runner is fighting some of the blazes, take a closer look at this wall, where somehow you can actually see 3 blaze rods sticking to the wall. And in the chaos of fighting the blazes, the runner clearly hits these 3 rods, making them jump off the wall and straight into his inventory. So not only is this fake, as the runner is getting extra blaze rods, but how in the world did he attach blaze rods to the wall? So, with 3 extra rods, the runner only needs to kill 4 blazes before he has enough to leave the fortress. But instead of searching for a bastion like a real speedrunner would, this speedrunner decides to head all the way back towards his nether portal and back into the overworld. Which is very strange, as he doesn't have any ender pearls, meaning he can't craft Eyes of Ender and can't light the end portal. Well, the runner spawns back into the overworld, where he seems to be traveling in a very specific direction, where he eventually finds a ruined bastion portal. Was this part of the new update? Well, the runner quickly pulls out his flint and steel, where he is actually able to light this bastion ruined portal. And to nobody's surprise, this ruined bastion portal actually teleports the runner straight to a bastion. So, the runner spawns into the bastion, but there's something fake about it right away, because take a very close look at the loot in this bastion chest. While nearly all of the items are completely normal, one of the items is actually fake, which is actually this piece of ice, a block that clearly can't spawn naturally in a bastion chest. Well, the runner places down a crafting table, where he uses this very piece of ice as the final item in crafting freeze traps. And when he goes up towards piglins and places them down, he literally starts freezing all of them in place, not allowing them to attack him at all. Since when were freeze traps added to Minecraft? Well, with all the piglins frozen in place, it's fairly easy for the runner to trade with them, where he starts collecting some pearls and collects obsidian. However, if you've been paying close attention, there's actually one piglin who was able to avoid all the freeze traps. But I don't think this is an actual piglin. Are you kidding me? This quote-unquote piglin is clearly just the runner's friend, and there is no way he thought we'd actually believe he was a real piglin. And the cherry on top is this quote-unquote piglin gives the runner obsidian and ender pearls in one single trade. So, after getting a bunch of items from this very real piglin, just like a normal speedrunner would, this runner decides to quickly build another portal and head back towards the overworld. And to the runner's credit, he actually seems to locate the very position of the strongholds very quickly. But this is very suspicious considering not only did the runner not use triangulation, but he hasn't even crafted a single Eye of Ender with his pearls. Well, to explain how the runner somehow pulled this off, let's take a listen into his audio.
Jack sent a message. The stronghold is at 7,215. 80 minus 2,585.
This speedrunner clearly received some sort of message, my guess from the person who's helped him throughout the entire run, who gave him the exact 3 coordinates of the strongholds. And now it's pretty obvious how he located it without throwing any Eyes of Ender. So, the runner finds the correct position, digs down, and falls into the strongholds. And giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, you actually do see him get the achievement for entering into it. But at this point, I don't even think the runner cares about hiding his cheating, because you can clearly see the runner start typing a /teleport command, and the speedrunner's friend, who didn't even bother to change his skin, teleports into the stronghold and starts leading him to the end portal room. Bro, at least use an invisible potion or something. So, the runner quickly enters the end portal room, but he ends up making a huge mistake. Because right before the runner is about to finish the portal, he accidentally throws his last Eye of Ender instead of placing it in the last frame. And being his last eye, he now has no way of lighting the portal and spawning into the end. Well, that's until this happens. That's right, his friend not only just lit the end portal with flint and steel, but you can literally see the empty end frame without a single Eye of Ender in it. So how in the world they managed to pull this off, I have less than zero idea. So, after somehow lighting the portal, the speedrunner jumps in, and here's where things just get hilarious. Because instead of spawning on an obsidian platform like in a real Minecraft speedrun, this speedrunner spawns directly on the surface. And when he turns around, he finds a player standing right in front of him, very clearly the same one we saw in the Nether. But not only that, because this player is holding a Rubik's Cube? Since when were these added into Minecraft? Well, this player starts to type in chat, explaining that for the runner to finish the speedrun, he must actually solve the Rubik's Cube. You gotta be kidding me. Well, this player throws the Rubik's Cube directly to the speedrunner, and he actually starts trying to solve it. But unfortunately, this speedrunner must not know how to do it, because he literally gets so angry that he throws the Rubik's Cube off the map. And because the runner didn't complete it, this player actually kills him, and the speedrun just ends there. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning inside a mushroom fields biome. And while there is technically nothing fake about the spawn, the odds of spawning in a mushroom fields biome is between 1 and 2%, so it is something to look out for. Either way, the speedrun begins, and being that this biome contains no wood, the runner's only option is to start exploring around the biome. But just a couple of seconds later, the runner finds a village? Now, not only is it clearly impossible for villages to spawn in a mushroom fields biome, but secondly, what type of village even is this? All the houses are made out of mushrooms. Is this a brand new update? Well, the runner enters one of the houses in this village, and things only get more cursed. Because not only does he find a chest with some pretty good items, including obsidian and wood planks to craft tools with, but he finds an armor stand with mushroom armor? Last time I checked, this wasn't a type of armor in vanilla Minecraft. left. Well, after looting a few more chests in this mushroom village, the runner explains in chat that he wants to find a ruined portal. The problem is, the odds of finding a ruined portal in a mushroom fields biome are extremely low, and to be exact, less than 0.02%. So with the runner being in this biome, how in the world is he supposed to locate a ruined portal? Well, the runner decides to use some sticks and some string he got from one of the village chests to craft a fishing rod, and during a timed Minecraft speedrun, throws his rod into the water and appears to be looking for fish. He does realize this is a speedrun, right? Well, after only a couple of seconds in the water, when the runner pulls his rod out, what? Did he just fish out an ender pearl? How is that even possible? It's quite literally a 0% chance to get an ender pearl from fishing. But it gets even crazier, because this isn't actually your ordinary ender pearl. Because when the runner opens his inventory, it's called the ruined portal pearl. Was this part of the new update? Well, the runner grabs the ruined portal pearl, where for some reason, he decides to throw it straight up in the air, meaning the pearl will clearly land in the exact same spot he's already standing. But when the pearl lands, what? He is somehow teleported into a beach biome right in front of a ruined portal. And I don't even know how that's possible, but this ruined portal pearl might be one of the craziest items I've ever seen. So, the runner is teleported directly in front of a ruined portal, where he goes to loot this chest like any normal speedrunner. And to my surprise, all of the loot in this ruined portal chest is actually completely standard, as all the items he finds inside do spawn there naturally. But there's one detail about this specific ruined portal that's actually incredibly fake. And to understand it, it's first important to note that this type of ruined portal is known as portal_9. And one very key detail about this type of portal is that it always spawns with 11 pieces of obsidian. However, if you actually pause the footage and count each individual block, you'll notice that the portal actually has 12 pieces of obsidian. And because the runner got one single piece of obsidian from the mushroom village, he just so happens to have the exact amount he needs to complete the portal. So I think it's incredibly obvious that the speedrunner added an extra block of obsidian off camera, but unfortunately, I noticed that it was version portal_9 and I caught us cheating. So, the runner completes the portal, lights it, and spawns into the nether. Now, there is something so obviously fake about his spawn that it's actually very likely you missed it. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with his inventory, as the runner hasn't gotten any overpowered items. And don't worry, it's not any potion effects either, as the runner has not magically gained fire resistance. But let's take a very close look at the speedrunner's hands before he spawns into the nether. Got it? So the runner lights the portal, spawns in, but now look at his fist. The runner is quite literally wearing an entirely different skin. And because it's impossible to change your Minecraft skin while being in game, the only possible explanation is that the speedrunner has actually cut his footage, and it's possible that he's playing on an entirely new Minecraft version. And make sure you remember that, because it'll be important later in the speedrun. So, the runner spawns into the nether, where if I have to give him credit, he does locate the nether fortress without a single ounce of suspicious activity. But as the runner is searching for a fortress chest, what in the world? Wait, is that a woodland mansion? In the nether? How is that even possible? Woodland mansions can only spawn in the overworld. Well, the speedrunner must also be amazed by this woodland mansion, because he immediately leaves the fortress and travels directly inside of it. But unlike a normal woodland mansion, which clearly doesn't have any blaze spawners, this speedrunner finds an entire blaze spawner room in the mansion. But not only that, because the entire room already has fire resistance particles in the air, meaning the speedrunner doesn't have to worry about taking a single tick of damage from any of the blazes. But I'll just be honest, I'm more shocked about how in the world a woodland mansion spawned in the nether. Well, after collecting 7 blaze rods in a woodland mansion, the speedrunner oddly decides to head back to the fortress. And this is very weird, considering the speedrunner already has 7 blaze rods, and any normal speedrunner would immediately start searching for a bastion. Well, that's because when the runner re-enters the fortress, what in the world? Is that a breeze spawner? Well, for those of you who aren't aware, a breeze is a brand new mob which was added in Minecraft 1.21, and they literally only spawn in the overworld. So how in the world is there a breeze spawner in the fortress? Well, the runner starts killing some of the breezes, where he specifically collects 2 breeze rods. And after placing down a crafting table, he uses these 2 rods as the final items in crafting the Abyss Terror? Is this a new Minecraft item? Now, do you remember earlier when the speedrunner's skin completely switched, and we guessed that the runner actually changed his game version? Well, I think it's pretty obvious he did that so he could collect breeze rods, an item that was added to the most recent version of Minecraft. And with that, let's see what this Abyss Terror weapon can actually do. That might be one of the craziest weapons I've ever seen. So, after destroying an unnecessary amount of blazes and collecting 7 rods, the speedrunner finally decides to start searching for a bastion. And on the surface, it may appear as though the runner locates one completely normally. As we saw, he didn't use a /locate command or any special type of ender pearl. But for a brief second at this part of the footage, the speedrunner accidentally reveals some of his tabs he has open. And along with Minecraft, YouTube, and the McDonald's website, he also has a website open called the Bastion Remnant Finder. And after navigating to this exact same website myself, you can literally see that all you need to do is enter your seed and game version, and it will give you the coordinates of every single bastion in that Minecraft world. And my guess is that while the speedrunner cut his footage and changed his game version earlier in the run, he also used his time off camera to navigate to this website and enter the seed of his Minecraft world to locate the exact coordinates of the bastion. And that also explains why he had his F3 menu open, as he was clearly traveling in the exact same coordinates he found on the Bastion Finder website. So, the runner enters the bastion, and for probably the first time all speedrun, something is completely normal, as the runner mines some gold blocks, turns them into ingots, and begins to search for some piglins to trade with. But unfortunately, this speedrunner simply can't seem to find a single piglin anywhere in the bastion. Well, I actually might have lied, because he does actually find a piglin flying on a platform being held by a ghast? Okay, this might be one of the coolest looking mobs that I've literally ever seen. Well, the speedrunner sees this insane looking mob, but I don't think it's friendly, because along with the ghast shooting fireballs, the piglin starts firing TNT from his very own TNT cannon, and the speedrunner is left with no choice but to try to escape. Now, with all of that chaos and one of the craziest looking mobs in Minecraft history, you probably didn't even notice that the speedrunner just cheated, because if you look at the runner's inventory, he suddenly acquired 16 ender pearls and 12 pieces of obsidian, despite the fact that we clearly saw the runner didn't trade with this piglin. Well, at this part of the footage, you can actually see that the speedrunner notices a basalt pressure plate, which first off, isn't even a real type of pressure plate in Minecraft. But secondly, right after the runner steps on this pressure plate, we can clearly see a command in the bottom left corner, which gives the speedrunner his items. So I actually think the speedrunner purposely used this insane looking mob as a distraction, so he could step on the pressure plate and get the pearls and obsidian while he thought we weren't looking. So the runner quickly starts building his nether portal, lights it, and spawns back into the overworld. But instead of using using the process of triangulation like a real Minecraft speedrunner would, this runner instead makes his way towards this nearby village. Strange. Well, it seems as though the runner wants to enter this specific village house, where he immediately notices a lever on the wall. Now, this is already very suspicious, considering this type of village house does not actually spawn naturally with a lever inside of it. Well, either way, the runner goes to the lever, and when he flips it, what? He somehow reveals the stronghold. But wait a second, earlier in the speedrun, we saw the back of this exact same village house, and I think it's pretty obvious there wasn't a single stronghold there. And wait a second, the stronghold is underground. This village house is clearly above ground. So if somebody can please explain how the runner just walked straight into the stronghold, that would be extremely helpful. So the runner somehow enters the stronghold, where he quickly locates the end portal room and lights the end portal. And when the runner finally spawns into the end, things honestly seem pretty normal, as the runner is in survival mode with the exact same items he had in the overworld, and the Ender Dragon appears to have all of his health still intact. But this speedrunner is about to do something quite literally impossible, because first off, he magically equips 2 bow and arrows, even though we clearly saw he hasn't had a single bow and arrow anywhere in the speedrun. But secondly, he holds 1 bow and arrow in each hand and somehow manages to shoot both of them at the same time, which after doing some testing in my own Minecraft world isn't even possible. So how is the runner shooting both of these at the same time? Well, with 2 bows and therefore double the power, I don't think anybody's surprised that the runner quickly breaks all the crystals and also absolutely destroys the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, and unfortunately, there's already something fake about it. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with his inventory, as we can clearly see he's in survival. And it's not even his world generation, as we can also see the runner is facing straight. But wait a second, are we sure it's not his world generation? Because when the runner opens his F3 menu, I want you to tell me if you notice what's fake about it. Well, if you look into the left side of this menu, we can clearly see the runner is facing the direction of east. The problem is, in a real Minecraft speedrun, you will always spawn in facing south. And this actually proves there was a cut in the runner's recording, and this world generation is completely fake, which likely means the runner is playing on a set seed. Either way, besides the very suspicious spawn, everything else does seem pretty normal, as the runner crafts a few stone tools and collects some food for later in the run. But things get even more suspicious when the runner enters this nearby village, because this village somehow contains not 1, not 2, but 3 blacksmiths. Now, this technically isn't impossible, as the odds of finding 3 blacksmiths in one single Plains village is between 5 and 10%. However, there is one very obvious detail which actually proves that it's fake. Because if you look closely at blacksmiths number 2 and 3, do you notice it? Instead of being built out of cobblestone like in a real blacksmith, they are instead built with smooth stone. And this pretty clearly reveals that these blacksmiths did not spawn naturally, but instead were built by the runner off camera. And the runner accidentally used smooth stone instead of cobblestone, revealing he cheated. Either way, the runner makes his way into each one of the blacksmiths, where the loot in each chest is actually 100% legit. And after collecting some beds and gathering some hay, the runner begins his search for a ruined portal. But on his way, the runner comes across, what? Is that an emerald desert pyramid? I'm pretty sure this wasn't part of the new update. Well, the runner enters inside the emerald pyramid, but things only get crazier. Because instead of finding 4 chests like in a real desert pyramid, the runner instead drops down into a fully built ruined portal. And while this is clearly fake, I have no idea how this is even possible. Well, the runner drops down, and despite this pyramid being insanely overpowered, there is one massive problem. Because when the runner goes to check his inventory, he realizes that he doesn't have a single flint and steel, meaning he actually has no way of lighting the portal. Well, that's until the runner decides to loot this ruined portal chest, where inside he finds a nether portal block, which he grabs and starts placing in the portal himself. And just to be clear, it is quite literally impossible to obtain a nether portal block in Minecraft, so I have no idea how he just found some in a ruined portal chest. This speedrun is just straight cursed. So, after manually filling in the ruined portal himself, the runner quickly makes his way into the nether. Now, if you weren't paying extremely close attention, this spawn may seem completely legit, as the runner is still in survival mode, and he hasn't gained any weird potion effects in the top right corner. But I'm going to replay his spawn, and I want you to see if you can catch what is fake this time. Did you see that? We can clearly see the runner's FOV completely change right after he spawns into the nether. And because it's actually impossible to adjust your FOV while spawning into a new dimension, the only explanation is that the runner made a cut in his recording. So when the runner finds a nether fortress just 7 seconds after he spawns in, it's pretty obvious that the speedrunner cut his recording, built an entirely new nether portal, and pretended to spawn there the entire time. So, the runner enters the fortress, and after looting a chest and fixing his FOV, he starts looking for a blaze spawner room to fight blazes and collect blaze rods. But hold on a second, since when did the runner collect a fire resistance potion? Just 5 seconds ago when he opened his inventory, we clearly saw he didn't have a single one anywhere. Well, let's replay this part of the footage, and let me know if you can catch what's fake about it. Did you see it? If you pay close attention to the stone pickaxe in the runner's first inventory slot, you can see that it suddenly switches places with this apple and goes to the 8th slot. And just a couple of seconds later, when the runner now opens his inventory, he suddenly has a potion of fire resistance. So if you couldn't tell, this pickaxe magically moving places proves the runner made a cut in his recording where he went off camera, got the fire resistance potion, and tried to pretend like nothing ever happened. So, with a fire resistance potion in effect, the runner can pretty easily kill blazes without worrying about taking damage. But that's until... what? This might be the scariest looking blaze that I've ever seen. Why is it literally massive? So of course, when the runner tries to kill this blaze, he gets absolutely destroyed. And after getting him buried alive, the runner of course comes up with the world's funniest excuse, claiming that the reason he died was actually because his mouse glitched. And after that terrible excuse, with quite possibly the world's most obvious cut, the runner is suddenly back in the nether with all of the items in his inventory. This is just hilarious. So, the runner quickly locates a new fortress without any giant blazes, where he actually collects 7 blaze rods without any suspicious activity, where he immediately starts searching for a bastion, just like a normal Minecraft speedrunner would. And to his credit, he actually locates one pretty quickly, but there's one big problem, because this bastion is located on the opposite side of a huge lava pool. And without enough blocks in his inventory to build to it, how is the runner supposed to enter the bastion? Well, that's when the runner turns around and finds a random lever on the floor, which of course, after clicking it, reveals a chest in the ground. Now I know you're probably expecting this chest to have a bunch of overpowered items like we've seen in other speedruns, but the runner actually just finds 16 snowballs in this chest. Very weird. Well, the runner grabs the snowballs, where he decides to throw one at the bastion. Alright, what's the point? How is that gonna help in the speedrun? What? The snowball literally teleports the runner where he block clutches right into the bastion. I am so shocked right now, I can't even comprehend how that's possible. So, the runner somehow teleports to the bastion, where things thankfully cool off and become a little more normal, because he mines gold blocks, crafts some ingots, and starts to trade with piglins completely normally for a change. But do you remember when the runner found a giant blaze in the fortress? Well, he's now face to face with a giant piglin. And to nobody's surprise, with this piglin being incredibly giant, he of course gives the runner all the items that he needs. seconds. Something must be glitched in this world's game files. So, after collecting all the items he needs from a bunch of normal piglins and one giant piglin, the runner quickly builds another portal and spawns back into the overworld. Now, in a real Minecraft speedrun, the runner would immediately craft Eyes of Ender and start throwing them in the air, using a popular process of triangulation to locate the strongholds. But this speedrunner seems to have a slightly different idea up their sleeve, because they start typing in chat explaining that the batteries in their controller died and they need to turn off their recording to go and change them. But hold on a second, this might be the funniest excuse I've ever heard, because throughout the run we can clearly see he's been using mouse and keyboard, meaning this excuse to change his batteries was just a way for the runner to turn off his recording. And if it couldn't get any funnier, we can actually hear the runner typing on his keyboard while he's supposed to be finding batteries. I think it's pretty obvious the runner is trying to find a way to cheat off camera. Well, when the runner finally returns, he of course now suddenly knows the exact coordinates of the strongholds and drops directly into it just 30 seconds later. So here is what I think happened. While we heard the runner typing while he was supposed to be getting new batteries, he was actually searching up a strongholds finder website where he typed in the seed of his Minecraft world and found the exact coordinates of the strongholds. And now it's pretty obvious why the runner had to turn off his recording, because he was obviously trying to hide the fact he was cheating. So, the runner digs down, enters the strongholds, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but everything is normal. The runner loots a few chests, and finds the end portal room without a bit of suspicious activity. But oh gosh, things were going so well. Why does this have to be the goofiest looking end portal ever made? Alright, I'm dying laughing, but there's no way this actually lights. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. I don't have an explanation for how this is possible. So, the runner spawns into the end, and things are back to normal for a change, with the runner spawning on an obsidian platform, and the ender dragon thankfully having full health. But oh my gosh, why in the world are there pillars made out of chests? And not only that, but the runner finds a random book laying on the ground, which explains that he will find the world's most overpowered weapons in one single chest. Is this guy about to go on a scavenger hunt in the end? Well, the runner closes the book, where he immediately starts looking through every single chest trying to find the overpowered item. At this point, it would probably be faster to just kill the dragon normally. Well, after literally 15 minutes of searching chests, the runner prepares to open this very chest. And inside, he does find an item, but it's not an enchanted netherite sword or even a power 5 bow like you might think, but instead a single wooden axe. And after literally wasting 15 minutes just to find an incredibly useless item, the runner doesn't even attempt to fight the dragon, but instead just jumps off the edge in rage. This next speedrun begins, and unfortunately, there is already something incredibly fake about it. And no, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the runner's generation screen, as we could clearly see his game mode was set to survival. And it actually isn't the position of the spawn itself, as the runner is facing perfectly straight, but it's actually the location of the speedrunner's spawn. Because when the runner opens his F3 menu, do you notice it? Well, in Minecraft, you will always spawn within a few hundred blocks of the origin, which is located at 0, 0, 0. However, as you can clearly see by this player's coordinates, he is well beyond a few hundred blocks, with his X coordinate literally being at 2,000. And this quite literally proves that this spawn location is completely fake, and not only does this mean that the runner has made a cut in his recording, but it is very likely that he is using a set seed. But let's give the runner the benefit of the doubt, as the rest of his spawn looks to be very standard, as the runner mines some wood, crafts a few tools, and makes his way into a suspiciously close plains village. But as the runner is collecting some hay hay, we get more details as to why the runner faked his world generation. Because at this part of the footage, the runner accidentally reveals some of the tabs he has open. And apart from Minecraft and YouTube, let's take a closer look at the final tab the runner has open, which is quite literally a Google document called Minecraft Seeds, which has an entire page filled with seeds ready for the runner to use. So I think it's incredibly obvious that the reason the runner had to edit his world generation was so he could use one of these Minecraft seeds to gain an advantage. Well, after using the hay he gathered to craft some bread and collecting a few beds in the village, the run continues with the speedrunner going to loot this village chest. But hold on a second, did you catch that? Right before the runner is about to open the chest, let's take a very close look outside this village window, where you can actually see the amount of daylight outside completely change. And because the time of day changes gradually in Minecraft and not at an instant like we just saw, this means the speedrunner has made yet another cut in his recording. So, when he opens the village chest and finds some pretty overpowered items, including a potion of fire resistance which can't even spawn naturally in a village chest, it's obvious that the runner cut his footage so he could go off camera and place the overpowered items in the chest himself. This guy just can't stop cheating. So, after collecting all of the loot from this village chest, the speedrunner grabs one extra bed and starts to search for a ruins portal, where, to his credit, is what a normal speedrunner would do at this point, so everything seems legit. But that's until... what? Okay, seriously, what in the world am I looking at here? He finds a ruins portal with 4 portals stacked on top of each other, and each is already lit with a different color. Okay, I've reviewed hundreds of fake speedruns, and this honestly might be the craziest thing that I've ever seen. Well, I guess the runner is feeling the green nether portal because he quickly loots the ruin portal chest and makes his way straight into it. But when the runner spawns in, what? He spawns in some sort of brand new dimension that has some of the strangest colors I've ever seen. And what type of cursed mob is the runner even looking at? Alright, there is no way this was part of the new update. Well, the speedrunner must be scared because he quickly heads back towards his portal as a way to leave this crazy dimension. And you're probably expecting him to spawn back into the overworld in the exact same place he originally entered the portal. But when the runner spawns back in, what? He not only spawns into the nether, but right in the middle of a nether fortress. And I'm sorry, I wish I had an explanation for what in the world is even happening. So, after the runner somehow spawns straight into a fortress from a green portal, things finally seem to be a bit more normal. With the runner looting a fortress chest, drinking the potion of fire resistance he got from the village, and quickly locating a blaze spawner. All completely legit. But if you've learned one thing about this speedrun, it's that things don't stay normal for too long. Because instead of blazes spawning at the blaze spawner, sheep start spawning instead. Wait, is that even possible? We can clearly see the mob inside this spawner is a blaze. How in the world are sheep spawning here? Well, that's not even the craziest thing about this part of the run, because instead of dropping wool like a normal sheep would, they instead drop blaze rods. Let me replay that. There are no cuts in the recording. The runner literally just killed these sheep and got free blaze rods. And I wish I had an idea on how the runner just pulled this off, but I'm at a loss for words. So, after killing just a couple more sheep, the runner already has 7 blaze rods, and with enough rods in his inventory, the next item that the runner needs to collect is ender pearls, where a normal speedrunner would likely search for a bastion to get them from piglin trades. But this runner instead comes across what? Alright, this building not only looks insane, but there is no way it is a real Minecraft structure. Well, the runner makes his way into this menacing looking structure where he comes face to face with the nether warden, who pulls out a sword and leads the runner to a chest with an insane amount of ender pearls. Wait, I thought this guy was about to kill our speedrunner, but he instead just led him to Minecraft's most overpowered chest. And after looting it, the warden literally types in chat, "Thank you for visiting." This might be the nicest warden that I've literally ever seen. But don't get distracted. this structure is still definitely not real. Well, after getting 4 stacks of ender pearls from the Nether Warden and enough blaze rods from the fortress, the runner now has enough items to head back to the overworld. But when the runner goes to check his inventory, he quickly realizes the only thing he is missing is obsidian. And without obsidian, the runner has no way to build another portal and therefore can't head back towards the overworld. Well, that's when out of nowhere, the Nether Warden reappears, and after pulling out a single redstone torch, the Nether Warden spawns in a portal out of thin air. And I'll replay the footage. There are no cuts at all. This warden somehow just summoned a fully built portal for the runner to use. And I don't know what powers this warden has, but that was absolutely insane. So, after entering a portal that was quite literally spawned out of thin air, the runner makes his way back into the overworld. And right away, the runner crafts Eyes of Ender, where you're probably expecting him to use the process of triangulation to locate the position of the strongholds. But that's until... what? The runner finds a pig with a literal boat on it, and he is also named the Stronghold Pig? Okay, there is no way the Stronghold Pig is a real Minecraft mob. Well, the runner makes his way towards this strange looking mob, where he decides to enter the boat. And somehow, the pig literally starts moving on its own, where it is clearly going in a very specific direction. Alright, there is no way the Stronghold Pig actually knows the location of the strongholds. Well, very shortly after the runner originally got on the pig, it suddenly stops moving, where the runner, trusting that this pig knows what it's doing, starts to dig down at that very spot. Alright, there is no way this actually works. What? The Stronghold Pig actually leads the runner directly into the strongholds. I think I may have seen it all in Minecraft speedrunning. So, the runner somehow drops into the strongholds, where after looting a stronghold chest, he quickly makes his way into the end portal room. But when the runner goes to check the portal, what? Some of the end portal is somehow already lit, despite the fact that only a few eyes are in the frames. Now, do you remember at the beginning of the speedrun when we found out the runner was using a set seed? Well, I think it's obvious the runner purposely chose a seed where the end portal was glitched and somehow lit on its own. That way he wouldn't have to worry about filling the end portal for himself. And even though we figured out this part of the run is fake, that doesn't change the fact that this portal looks insanely cursed. So, the runner jumps into this cursed portal where he actually manages to spawn in the end. And because he spawns on an obsidian platform and without any strange potion effects in the top right corner of the screen, it may look like everything is normal about this end. But all of a sudden, a bright white flash suddenly takes over the speedrunner's vision. Was there some sort of smoke bomb that went off? Well, whatever the case may be, when the runner regains his vision after the smoke bomb, what? The end dimension has quite literally turned overpowered. Was this some sort of magical smoke bomb? How did everything change so quickly? Well, not only did this smoke bomb turn the entire surface overpowered and all of the obsidian pillars into pure quartz, but when the runner locates the ender dragon, it has quite literally transformed into the netherite ender dragon. And this dragon is so incredibly strong that even after breaking all of the crystals and literally cheating by typing in a command to get a netherite sword, the runner cannot do a single tick of damage to the dragon. Look, he is hitting this dragon with a pure netherite sword, but his health bar has stayed the exact same. And I guess this angered the speedrunner so much because he literally just opens his menu and quits the game. I wonder if he ever finished the speedrun. This next speedrun begins and what? Wait a second, is that a llama from Fortnite? Okay, first off, llamas can only spawn naturally in a savanna biome when the runner is clearly in a plains biome. But secondly, how in the world did the runner spawn in directly next to a llama that's straight out of Fortnite? Fortnite. Was there a new collaboration that I missed? Either way, before the runner makes his way towards the llama, I guess the rest of his spawn is pretty normal, as the runner spawns in survival mode without any strange items in his inventory, and his world generation screen also looked completely legit. But when the runner goes to kill this llama, oh my gosh, it drops some insanely overpowered items for the speedrunner. And apart from a potion of fire resistance, flint and steel, and even a god apple, all very helpful items for the speedrun, this llama also drops a single redstone torch. And while that may seem pretty unimportant, remember it for later. So, after demolishing the llama, the speedrun continues with the runner collecting some wood, crafting a couple of stone tools, and making his way towards the nearby village. But hold on a second there, am I the only one who caught that? I'll replay the clip, and tell me if you notice what's incredibly fake about this part of the run. You are correct. Right behind this very village house, you can literally see another player in the speedrun. And not only does this mean that the runner is on a multiplayer server, something that's banned from a solo speedrun, but is he the one who managed to spawn in this Fortnite llama? Well, while it may look like this player is minding his own business, he's actually about to help the speedrunner cheat. Because after the runner kills the iron golem, he realizes he only has 2 iron ingots in his inventory, which means he is 1 iron ingot short of being able to craft a bucket, which is the only way he can collect water and build another portal. Well, while the runner is casually gathering some hay, take a closer look into the distance, where you can literally see this other player building an entire blacksmith for his friend. And I think it's pretty obvious the reason he's building a brand new blacksmith is because blacksmith's chests are known to spawn with iron in them, and with the runner not having a lot of iron, his friend built him a blacksmith so he could collect extra and craft a bucket. But unfortunately, I caught this guy in 4K. So, the runner makes his way towards the man-made blacksmith, where our suspicion is confirmed, and he gets the last iron ingot he needs to craft a bucket. And after collecting a couple more beds, the runner then makes his way towards a lava pool, where he of course has the perfect amount of iron to craft a bucket and starts to create the nether portal. But am I the only one who caught that? While the runner is casually creating obsidian and building out the shape of the portal, he clearly falls into lava for just a brief second. However, despite the potion of fire resistance still being in his inventory, confirming that he hasn't used it, he somehow doesn't take a single tick of damage. How is that possible? Well, let's rewind the footage to about 15 seconds ago, when the speedrunner decided to put his logo in the bottom left corner of the screen. While it may look like this guy is just trying to advertise his channel, he's actually using this logo as a way to cheat. Because if you go back frame by frame, are you serious? There is one frame where the runner forgot to add in his logo, revealing it was covering a fire resistance effect command the entire time. And not only was this effect clearly given to the speedrunner by his friend, but secondly, how did the runner manage to hide the effect box in the top right corner of the screen? Either way, after avoiding taking a single lick of damage despite falling straight into lava, the runner quickly finishes building the portal and heads into the nether. And immediately after he spawns in, take a very close look into the right corner of the screen, where we can see the runner's friend literally spinning in a circle. Now, I know you're probably wondering why in the world this guy is acting so crazy, but believe it or not, he's actually about to help the speedrunner cheat. Because in Minecraft speedrunning, there's a very popular technique where a player opens his F3 menu and takes a look at the E value, which is the value that shows how many entities are located in that direction. And because bastions have a lot of entities, such as piglins and hoglins, any direction that has a high E value is likely to contain a bastion. So, while you may have thought this player was literally going crazy, the reason he's spinning is actually because he's looking for the direction that contains the most entities. And this guy must have been successful, because just a few seconds later he types in chat telling the runner the exact direction and coordinates he needs to follow to locate a bastion. So just 30 seconds later, after following those exact directions, it's no surprise that the speedrunner is greeted with a bastion. This cheating is just straight hilarious. So, the runner enters the bastion, and right off the bat, I think I caught these players cheating once again. Because while the runner is casually mining some gold blocks, take a very close look into the bottom corner of the screen, where we can see his friend place down a pressure plate on this exact block. Remember this for later. So, the runner collects a few more gold blocks and turns them into ingots, where he quickly locates a group of nearby piglins to trade with. And to his credit, the first few trades with these piglins are 100% standard, as the runner receives completely normal items. But that's until... what? The runner opens his inventory and realizes he has somehow collected 64 ender pearls. And this is incredibly rare, considering the fact that he just started trading with these piglins. Well, let's rewind the footage to about 15 seconds earlier and see what really happened. I'll play the clip. As you can very clearly see, this stack of pearls that the runner got didn't actually come from the piglins, but instead came from somewhere in the sky. And do you remember how I pointed out the runner's friend placing a pressure plate on the floor? Well, right before these pearls drop from the sky, you can hear the sound of this pressure plate going off, meaning the runner has in fact stepped on it. So as you've probably gathered by now, this pressure plate placed by his friend must have triggered some sort of redstone contraption, which dropped the pearls from the sky, all to give the speedrunner an advantage. This cheating is terrible. So, with a full stack of ender pearls in his inventory, the runner quickly leaves the bastion and immediately starts searching for a fortress. And while his gameplay may look 100% normal and standard, his audio is a completely different story.
Silas, I basically found a website where you add your Minecraft seed and it gives you coordinates to a fortress.
Are you serious? This speedrunner's friend literally just admitted to using a fortress locator website to find the exact coordinates of the fortress. And just a few seconds later, we clearly see his friend typing in chat, giving the runner the exact 3 numbers he needs to locate the fortress. There's no way they are this bad at hiding their cheating. So, the runner makes his way to the fortress, where I guess if I have to give him credit, he gets the achievement for entering it. And the runner pretty quickly locates a blaze spawner room, where he starts to fight blazes and collects blaze rods. But all of a sudden, what? Okay, there is no way this guy thought we'd actually believe this was a real ghast. They aren't even close to being the same size. It's so obvious that it's literally just a skin. Well, this quote-unquote ghast is actually about to do something insane, because he throws one of the biggest swords I've ever seen at the runner. And oh my gosh, the ghast has given him a weapon that is literally called the super cool, epic, awesome, wonderful Master Sword. What kind of name is that? Well, while the name of the sword is absolutely hilarious, the weapon itself is the exact opposite, because when the runner goes to use it, oh my gosh, it somehow has the ability to shoot wither skulls. And I feel bad for these blazes because they start to get absolutely destroyed. Alright, was this a weapon added in the new Minecraft update? Well, after destroying every single blaze in sight with this weapon, the runner eventually collects 7 blaze rods, the exact amount a normal speedrunner would usually collect. But when the runner opens his inventory, he's made a giant mistake. This speedrunner has forgot to collect enough obsidian blocks from the bastion, as he only has 3 in his inventory, which is obviously not enough to build another portal, meaning he has no way to enter the overworld. But do you remember at the very beginning of the speedrun when the runner got this singular redstone torch from the Fortnite llama? Well, he starts running in a very specific direction in the nether, and after about 30 seconds of running, he quickly pulls out that very redstone torch and moves in a very precise position. But that's when, what? The runner is dropped from a trapdoor and goes from the nether directly into the overworld. And I'll replay the footage. There are no cuts anywhere. This speedrunner just managed to fall between dimensions in Minecraft. Minecraft. And I think it's pretty obvious this redstone torch set off some sort of redstone contraption that must have been built by the speedrunner's friend. But even with redstone, how do you manage to just fall between dimensions? Well, the runner is somehow back in the overworld, where he immediately turns his blaze rods into blaze powder and crafts Eyes of Ender. But he isn't about to use the process of triangulation like you might think. Because do you remember when the runner found the Fortnite llama at the beginning of the speedrun? Well, the speedrunner then comes across... What? Is that the Fortnite battle bus? Alright, seriously, was there a new update that I haven't seen? Well, the runner quickly builds up and makes his way inside the Fortnite battle bus. And when he looks out the window, it actually appears as though the bus is moving. And after about 15 seconds in the bus, when the runner goes to exit, oh my gosh. This battle bus did actually move, as the runner is now in an entirely different biome. But not only that, but after the speedrunner jumps down into a pool of water, he starts digging down in the exact spot the bus has stopped moving. And just 25 seconds later, he drops directly into the stronghold. So not only did a Fortnite battle bus just lead the runner right to a stronghold, but how in the world did it manage to move? And how did it even manage to spawn in vanilla Minecraft? I am so confused. So, the runner drops directly into the stronghold, where he quickly loots one of the chests and makes his way to the end portal room. And things have finally appeared to settle down, as the runner locates the portal and lights it without an ounce of suspicious activity. And on top of that, his spawn into the end is completely normal too, with the runner still being in survival mode and without any strange potion effects in the top right corner of the screen. But when the runner breaks out and looks at the surface, what in the world? What has happened to the end? The surface is quite literally built out of grass, and instead of finding obsidian pillars, the runner finds these massive trees. Alright, has the end somehow turned into Fortnite as well? But this is the best part, because while we can clearly see the dragon still has a health bar at the top of the screen, when the runner makes his way towards the surface, it's obvious he can't find it anywhere. But don't worry, because instead of finding an ender dragon, the runner instead finds another llama just like he did at the start of the speedrun. And I wish I knew how, but when the runner kills a llama this time, the gateway portal somehow lights and he completes the speedrun. This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake about it, because take a very close look into the top right corner of the screen, where you can see the shape of the letter F. And not only was this clearly built by the speedrunner for some strange reason, but remember this letter as it will become very important. Either way, besides a random letter that's built out of dirt, I guess the rest of his spawn is actually pretty normal. He's in survival mode, he's selecting the very first slot of his inventory, and we can see that he's facing straight. But things already start to get suspicious when the runner makes his way towards a nearby village. Did you catch that? While the runner is casually entering the village, notice how this block of cobblestone under the bell suddenly turns to an iron block. And first off, there were clearly no cuts in the recording, so I have no idea how in the world this block just transformed. But secondly, an iron block clearly gives iron ingots, which is a very crucial item for Minecraft speedruns. So I'm incredibly suspicious that the runner has something to do with this. Either way, the rest of this village actually appears to be completely normal, as the runner collects some beds, gathers some hay, and of course, collects this iron block. But instead of the block giving the runner iron ingots, it instead gives him diamonds? Okay, this iron block is very cursed. Well, while a bunch of diamonds is clearly very overpowered, this actually causes a slight problem for the speedrunner, because this means he doesn't have any iron ingots, so his only option is to search for the village's iron golem. But that's when... What? The runner finds the goofiest looking iron golem that I've probably ever seen. Did he actually think we'd believe this was a real iron golem? Well, the runner makes his way towards this wish.com iron golem, but when he kills it, it somehow drops 3 iron ingots. Okay, hold on. It's more than obvious this quote-unquote golem is just an armor stand with a golem head. So how in the world did it actually drop iron ingots? Well, let's run the footage to about 10 seconds earlier to right before the runner comes across this hilarious golem, where if you look into the top left corner of the screen, you can clearly see the head of another player who is hiding on this village roof. And if you play the footage of the runner getting the ingots one more time, notice how they don't actually come from this wish.com golem, but instead come from the sky. So I think it's pretty obvious the runner's friend was the one who dropped the iron ingots, and definitely not this Timu looking golem. But secondly, this other player proves the runner is on a multiplayer server, something that's clearly banned from a solo speedrun. This cheating is out of control. So, with 3 iron ingots, the runner has enough to craft flint and steel, where he quickly begins his search for a ruins portal. But that's when... What in the world? The runner finds a hilariously goofy Minecraft structure that not only clearly doesn't spawn naturally, but is also called the Ruins Portal Teleporter. Alright, come on. It's obvious this took less than 10 seconds to build in creative mode. Well, the runner makes his way towards the structure, where he enters inside and sees one singular lever on the wall. And when he clicks it, what? A trapdoor opens up, which drops the runner straight down in front of a ruined portal. Okay, hold on a second. This ruined portal teleporter was clearly built on the ground, but it somehow dropped the speedrunner from way up in the air. Does that mean this teleporter actually managed to move places? Well, after falling directly in front of a ruined portal, the runner's first order of business is to check the ruined portal chest. And inside, he finds some pretty normal items. Gold ingots, some obsidian, the harbinger. Wait, what? Okay, this weapon might be the craziest weapon that I've ever seen. So, after destroying every mob in sight with the harbinger, the runner finally focuses by completing the portal and making his way into the nether. But hold on a second. Did you see that? Right before the runner is about to enter the portal, let's take a very good look into the distance, where you can actually see the shape of the letter A that is made out of leaves. And this is now the second letter we've seen in the speedrun, so keep them in mind for later. So, the runner lights the portal, spawns into the nether, and immediately starts searching for a nether fortress. And while the runner does manage to locate one, am I the only one who thought he did it suspiciously quickly? Well, let's rewind the footage to right before the runner started his search to see what really happened. Because if you pause the footage at this frame, take a very good look into the left corner of the screen, where you can clearly see the same friend we saw in the village earlier holding a redstone block. And if you play the footage, you'll actually notice the runner was following these redstone blocks all the way to the fortress. So if you couldn't tell, this player, who is clearly helping the runner cheat, placed a bunch of redstone blocks throughout the nether to remind the runner the exact path to follow to locate the fortress. This cheating is just hilarious. So, the speedrunner finally manages to locate a nether fortress, but he has one big problem. This fortress is on the complete opposite side of a giant lava pool, and because the runner has almost no blocks in their inventory, how in the world is he supposed to make his way towards the fortress? Well, the runner quickly places down a crafting table, where he grabs obsidian and appears to be making the shape of a boat. Alright, hold on. Since when did the runner runner have 5 pieces of obsidian. It's more than obvious he only had 1 before he entered the nether. And secondly, I think it's obvious the only types of boats in Minecraft are wooden. What? The runner somehow manages to create an obsidian boat. And not only that, but this obsidian boat doesn't break when placed on lava, allowing the runner to jump in and easily make his way towards the fortress. Alright, was this boat a part of the new update or something? Well, after taking a quick trip on the obsidian boat, the runner makes his way into the fortress. And while everything looks normal on the surface, as this fortress contains completely normal loot, when the runner makes his way towards the blaze spawner, wait, what? The runner finds the world's tiniest looking blazes. Dude, these things are literally smaller than an alley. What in the world is wrong with these game files? Well, not only are these blazes extremely tiny, but that also means they're incredibly weak. Because the runner literally is able to one-shot every single one of them. Okay, did his friend manage to shrink the blazes or something? Well, with these blazes being tiny and incredibly weak, the runner is able to collect 7 blaze rods in record time, where his next order of business would be to locate a bastion so he can collect both ender pearls and obsidian. But I think his friend has a slightly different plan, because he quickly types in chat asking if the runner wants to play Bed Wars. Alright, hold on. Did he forget this is a speed run? Well, I guess the runner can afford to waste some time because he actually decides to quit the game and literally starts playing Bed Wars. Are these guys serious?
5 minutes later.
Well, after a bit of fun on Bed Wars, the runner finally returns to Minecraft, where he then begins searching for that bastion. And after less than 30 seconds of searching, he actually manages to locate one. But hold on a second, did you catch that? Before the runner and his friend got distracted and went to play Bed Wars, notice how the runner is in a completely enclosed part of the fortress. Got it? So, the runner logs off, hops onto Bed Wars, but when he joins back, he's now in a completely different fortress. I mean, look at the before and after. These are 2 entirely different structures. So if you couldn't tell, while it may have looked like the runner playing Bed Wars was just for fun, he secretly went off camera and located an entirely different fortress. And it's obvious the reason he did this was because he wanted to be in a fortress closer to a bastion to make it seem like he found one much faster. But unfortunately, I caught him in 4K. So, the runner makes his way into the bastion, where I guess I can give him some credit, as he collects a few gold blocks, turns them into ingots, and starts to trade with a group of nearby piglins. Now, if we take a look at the runner's inventory, he does actually collect completely normal items, including ender pearls, some blackstone, and obsidian, all items that are very standard to receive from piglin trades. But let's rewind the footage to see how exactly the runner got these 10 blocks of obsidian. I'll play the clip. As you can clearly see, these blocks of obsidian appear in his inventory while he's moving backwards. And that's very suspicious considering all the piglins are in front of him, and there's no possible way they threw the obsidian above his head. So where in the world did this obsidian even come from? Well, let's rewind the footage to about 20 seconds earlier and pause at this frame, where if you look closely, you can see the runner's friend clearly holding obsidian in his hand. If you couldn't tell, the runner's friend clearly threw 10 blocks of obsidian behind the runner while we weren't looking, and the runner walked backwards straight over it, hoping we wouldn't notice it randomly appear in his inventory. But unfortunately, I caught them cheating. So, after collecting ender pearls and getting the exact amount of obsidian he needs from his friend, the runner quickly builds the shape of a nether portal and lights it, preparing to head into the overworld. But just before he does, I want you to take a close look into the left corner of the screen, where you can see a random sign on this wall that clearly has the letter K on it. Alright, this is now the third different letter we've seen in the speedrun, and make sure you've been remembering them. So, the runner spawns back into the overworld, where things finally seem to be slightly normal, as the runner uses the very popular process of triangulation to locate the exact position of the strongholds. And when he digs down into it, he does actually get the achievement for entering it. But just a few seconds later, did you catch that? While the runner is casually searching for the end portal room, pause the footage at this frame, where you can very clearly see the shape of a letter E in the wall. And this is now the fourth letter we've seen in the run, and don't worry, this will all make sense very shortly. So, after a little bit more searching in the strongholds, the runner finally locates the end portal room, and he quickly begins to light it, preparing to head into the end. But hold on a second, did you see that? When the runner originally entered the end portal room, it's very obvious that the portal only has one Eye of Ender in it. However, after the runner turns around and goes to craft his own, when he looks at the portal this time, it now suddenly has 3 Eyes of Ender in it, which of course means the runner now has the exact amount he needs to light the ruined portal. How is this possible? Well, if you pause the footage at this frame, you gotta be kidding me. You can literally see the same player who's helped the runner throughout the speedrun, wearing a lava skin and hiding in the lava pool to the left. Which means while the runner was busy crafting his own Eyes of Ender, his friends secretly placed extra eyes in the portal to help the runner cheat. And I'm not gonna lie, they almost just got away with that. So, the runner lights the portal, jumps in, and he's finally made it into the end. And his spawn is actually completely standard, as he spawns on an obsidian platform, the usual, and we can also see he hasn't gained any items in his inventory. But hold on a second. Do you remember how throughout the speedrun, this runner has seen 4 distinct letters? To begin, he saw the letter F built out of dirt at the start of the run. Next, he saw the letter A made out of leaves on this tree. After that, he saw the letter K on a sign in the nether. And finally, he just saw the letter E while looking for the end portal room. Well, what happens when you take all 4 of these letters and put them together? Oh my gosh. They literally create the word fake. Wait a second. Did this guy just admit that this speedrun was fake the entire time? Look at the chat. That has to be what he's been doing. Well, after admitting he's been fooling us all, he of course has to show off one last time, where he goes to press this singular button, which clearly doesn't spawn naturally, and out from the sky drops the biggest netherite sword that I've literally ever seen. Dude, this thing is literally bigger than the speedrunner himself. Well, with a weapon this huge, I don't think anybody's surprised that the runner easily destroys the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, and what? Did this speedrunner just spawn on a skyblock island? Okay, hold on. I guess it's possible that the world generated like this naturally, but after asking ChatGPT what it thought, this literally has a 1 in 64 trillion chance of happening. So right off the bat, I'm extremely certain that the speedrunner has cheated. Anyway, being that the runner is on a skyblock island, his first order of business is looting the skyblock chests, where he finds one singular item, a water bucket. Okay, does that mean that this guy's about to clutch? Oh! The speedrunner actually manages to water bucket clutch, where he finds himself directly in the center of a village. Okay, I know the spawn was completely fake, but let's ignore it, because this speedrunner just pulled off a crazy stunt. So, I guess the speedrun technically begins now, with the runner collecting some wood, crafting some tools, and heading back inside the nearby village. But there's something so obviously fake about this village, there's actually a chance you might have missed it. So take a good look one more time. That's right. Despite this village being in a plains biome, the runner somehow finds a savanna village house. But not only that, the runner also finds a desert house, snow house, and even a taiga house. Which means this one village literally has 5 different types of village houses. So I have no idea how in the world the runner pulled this off. Well, the runner makes his way into each of the village houses, but only finds a chest in the desert one, where he actually finds some pretty standard loot. An iron sword, bread, a chain, and even a few pieces of iron. And while all of the loot in this village chest may seem innocent, it's actually impossible for a chain to spawn here naturally, which not only means the runner placed it himself before recording, but he's going to use this item later to do something insane. So, after collecting all the loot from the village chest, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a ruins portal. And the runner actually manages to find one. Hold on a second. Did you just see that? Okay, wait. I'll replay it in slow motion, because maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. Did you catch that? When the runner originally looks in this direction, it's more than obvious there is not a single ruins portal. But after the runner turns around and looks for a second time, a ruins portal has suddenly appeared. But I can't spot a single cut anywhere in this part of the recording. So did this ruined portal literally just spawn on its own? Well, the runner makes his way towards this very suspicious ruins portal and immediately goes to loot the ruins portal chests. And there's something so obviously fake about this part of the run that you might have actually skipped over it. That's right. Despite the ruined portal chest clearly being the normal size, when the runner opens it, it somehow turns into a large chest, which means the runner finds far more loot than normal, and of course ends up with the exact amount of obsidian he needs to complete the portal. How in the world did the runner just do that? Well, after somehow opening a large chest, the runner finally makes his way into the nether, where I can give him some credit for getting the achievement, and for searching for a bastion like any normal speedrunner. But that's when... What? The runner finds quite possibly the goofiest looking bastion that I've ever seen. Did this bastion come straight off of Temu? Well, not only is the bastion itself insanely hilarious, but when the runner goes to look at the piglins, are you kidding? These are the dumbest looking piglins that I've ever seen in Minecraft. Well, I guess the runner is still interested in trading with these wish.com piglins, but unfortunately, instead of finding gold blocks, this bastion has yellow wool. And this is a big problem, considering the only way he'd be able to trade with these piglins is if he collects gold ingots. Well, the runner still decides to break the yellow wool. What? This piece of yellow wool somehow drops a gold block. And I'll replay that. There are no cuts or any editing of the footage, and this piece of yellow wool actually just dropped a gold block. I am so confused. Well, the runner somehow collects 4 gold blocks, where he quickly crafts ingots, and makes his way towards this Temu looking piglin. And despite the runner throwing gold at it, it's more than obvious this piglin won't be able to trade with him. But that's until... Huh? A bunch of items have literally appeared in front of the piglin. Wait, did this Temu piglin actually gain the ability to trade? Well, these items aren't actually coming from the piglin, but from an entirely different source. And I'll pause the footage at this frame so you can try to locate where they're coming from. That's right, if you look closer into this pool of lava, you can actually spot the slightest bit of a player head sticking out of it, who clearly thought they could blend in by wearing a lava skin. Which means no, these items did not actually come from the wish.com piglin, but instead actually came from the runner who was trying to hide in the lava. So, After collecting all the items that he needs, the runner's next order of business is locating a nether fortress. But this guy doesn't seem to want to locate one in your standard speedrun way, because he starts building something very strange. What? The runner literally makes a portal out of cobblestone? Last time I checked, there wasn't any type of cobblestone portal added in the new update. Well, the runner decides to head into his custom cobblestone portal, where he is teleported into a very strange room. And no, there isn't a bunch of overpowered loot like you might expect, but instead, just a singular wooden button on the wall. But of course, this isn't your ordinary wooden button, because when the runner goes to click it, he's teleported directly into a fortress. And let me replay that. This button actually managed to work. But I'm still confused on how the runner managed to build this cobblestone portal, because after building the exact same one in my own Minecraft world, I can confirm it's not possible. So, the runner enters the fortress, where his first order of business is locating the blaze spawner. And while he does locate one without any suspicious activity, the blazes itself are not normal in the slightest, because the runner finds... What? I'm sorry, what am I looking at here? Is that Steve that has somehow turned into a blaze? What in the world is going on? Well, of course, because this blaze is nothing like normal, it also doesn't drop the normal blaze rods, but instead drops coal? Okay, the game files of this Minecraft world have to be corrupted. What is even happening anymore? Well, after killing a few more Steve blazes, the runner quickly heads to a different blaze spawner, where he finally finds your normal blazes. And he actually collects 7 blaze rods pretty quickly. Hold on a second. The speedrunner cheated once again. Because look, on the first blaze that he kills, he gets 1 rod, normal. On the second blaze, he also gets a single rod, which is also normal. But on the third blaze, the runner actually collects 2 blaze rods, which is something that's impossible in vanilla Minecraft, as the max amount of rods a blaze can drop is only 1. Which means the only reason he was able to collect 7 rods so quickly was because some of the blazes were somehow dropping extra rods. This is starting to hurt my brain. So, after collecting all the rods that he needs, he uses the obsidian he got from the wish.com piglin to build another portal and spawn into the overworld. But I'll give you a chance to see if you can spot what's fake about this spawn. Do you see it yet? It's actually kinda hard to spot. That's right, in a real Minecraft speedrun, when you spawn back into the overworld, it takes a few seconds for the world to generate in front of you. However, in this speedrun, literally everything has already loaded in the second the runner spawns back in, which leads me to believe he's made a cut in the recording. And this will make more sense in just a few moments. So, the speedrunner spawns in, where he quickly crafts Eyes of Ender, and by using the process of triangulation, he seems to believe the stronghold is located under this very block, which to his credit, actually turns out to be right. Hold on a second. There's one extremely tiny detail about this part of the speedrun, which actually reveals that he has just cheated, and he wasn't actually using triangulation to locate the strongholds. Because pause the footage at this exact frame, and tell me if you can spot what is fake. Well, I'll give you a single hint. It has something to do with this beehive. So do you see it now? Well, if you're still confused, let me explain. Because while it is possible for a beehive to spawn naturally on an oak tree, it's actually only possible for a beehive to face one specific direction, which is when this part of the beehive is facing the direction of south. However, when it comes to the beehive in this speedrun, you can clearly see that very same spot is facing west, which means this beehive did not spawn here naturally, but was instead placed by the runner off camera. And the runner clearly did that for one specific reason, to remind him a stronghold was located under this exact area of blocks. So nice try, but I caught you cheating in 4K. So, the runner digs down, enters the stronghold, and starts to search for the end portal room. But after a bit of searching with no luck, the speedrunner gets impatient and places down a crafting table, where he manages to craft an item called the end portal generator? Okay, first off, I'm 99.9% sure this isn't a real Minecraft item, but secondly, what in the world could this item even do? Well, the runner makes his way towards an empty area of the stronghold, and when he places down the end portal generator, oh my gosh, he manages to summon an entire end portal out of thin air, which means all he has to do is grab his eyes, light the portal, and the runner is suddenly in the end. Okay, can anyone help me figure out what in the world the end portal generator is? Well, the runner spawns into the end, and before things start to get crazy, it's important to note his spawn does look legit, as the runner is clearly still in survival mode, and thankfully, the Ender Dragon still has full health. But when the runner makes his way to the surface, hold on a second. Do you remember near the very beginning of the speedrun, when the runner found a single chain in this desert village house, which is an item that actually can't spawn there naturally? Well, he uses that very item as the last piece in crafting the Nameless Blade, which is not only an insane looking Minecraft weapon, but there's no shot it's a real Minecraft item. Well, after somehow crafting this crazy weapon that I've never seen before, the runner has no problem one-shotting the Ender Dragon. That was insane. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a desert pyramid. And while there's technically nothing fake about the spawn, the odds of spawning directly next to a desert pyramid are between 1 and 3%, so this is definitely something to look out for. Either way, the run begins with the speedrunner collecting some wood, crafting a few tools, and moving towards the desert pyramid. There's just one slight issue. If you look at this specific part of the pyramid, there's actually one detail that reveals he's cheated. And that's the fact that these two blocks are red terracotta, when a real desert pyramid has orange terracotta. And this actually means the runner has been on the world before he started recording, which will make a lot more sense incredibly soon. So, the runner heads inside the desert pyramid. But hold on a second, did you catch that? While the runner is entering the pyramid, you can quite literally see another player who is wearing a sandstone skin and trying to blend in. And not only does this mean the runner is on a multiplayer server, something banned from a solo speedrun, but make sure you remember this other player, as he's going to become a crucial part of the speedrun. So, the runner enters the pyramid, and after digging down and avoiding the pressure plate, he starts to loot the pyramid chests. And the first 3 chests he loots actually contain completely normal items. However, when the runner opens the 4th chest, take a look and see if you can spot which item here is fake. Well, I think it's quite clearly this rainbow slime ball in the top right corner of the screen. And not only does this item clearly not exist in vanilla Minecraft, but you're not going to believe how the runner uses it later in the run. So, the runner collects all of his loot, leaves the pyramid, and then manages to locate a nearby village. But that's when the runner sees, what? Is that a pillager outpost? Okay, hold on a second. This is quite simply impossible, as pillager outposts literally can't spawn inside of villages in Minecraft. So how did it get here? Well, if you rewind the footage all the way back to the beginning of the speedrun, you can clearly see another player on the right side of the screen. And not only is this the exact same player who is blending in with the desert pyramid, but take a look at the blocks in his inventory. Dark oak logs, a chest, and even cobblestone, which just so happen to be 3 of the exact same blocks that are a part of a pillager outpost. And this leads me to believe that while the runner was busy looting the desert pyramid, this other player was actually building an entire pillager outpost by himself. And this is made incredibly obvious when the runner goes to loot the outpost chests, because he finds some of the most important items to enter the nether: obsidian, flint steel, and even fire resistance, which are all 3 items that can't even spawn naturally in this location. So, after collecting his loot from the outpost chests and killing the iron golem without an ounce of suspicious activity, you're probably expecting the runner to use his obsidian to craft another portal and head into the nether. But before the runner does that, he decides he wants to loot the chest in this village house. And no, the loot in this chest isn't fake in the slightest. It actually contains some pretty useless items. But while the runner is looting it, let's take a quick look out of this window, where we can actually spot the runner's friend switch from a sandstone skin to a nether brick skin. But why in the world would the runner need to be wearing a nether brick skin? Just keep that in mind. Well, after looting the chest and collecting a few extra beds, the runner builds another portal and prepares to head into the nether. But right before the runner is about to enter the portal, hold on a second. Are you seeing the absolute madness that is happening in the distance? Here, take a look. In the far and back right corner of the desert, you can see the runner's friend building a nether portal out of thin air. Wait a second. He's actually placing blocks of nether portal. There's no obsidian at all. And the nether portal block isn't even an item in vanilla Minecraft. I have no idea what's happening anymore. So, the runner finally enters the nether, and right away, let's give him some credit, as he does get the achievement in the bottom left corner of the screen, and he clearly has the exact same items as he did in the overworld. But as the runner is starting to search for a nether fortress, pause the footage at this frame, because there's one single detail that raises a big amount of suspicion. Do you see it? Well, look into the left side of the screen, where you'll actually spot a piece of warped fungus, which in itself isn't fake in the slightest, as it clearly looks the exact same as one you'd find in a real speedrun. Here's the problem. Warped fungus can actually only spawn in 2 specific nether biomes, which are a crimson forest and warped forest biome, which as you can clearly see, is not the biome that the runner is in, which means the only possible way it's gotten here is if the speedrunner's friend built it himself off camera. Well, the runner of course wants to check out the piece of warped fungus, where he moves closer towards it and decides to break these specific blocks. And that's when, what? The runner uncovers a secret ladder under the fungus, which actually leads the runner directly into a nether fortress. And at this point, it's more than obvious the runner's friend located a fortress, built a secret ladder and warped fungus directly above it, and pretended like it spawned there naturally the entire time. But I just caught them cheating in 4K. So, the runner falls down into the fortress, where I can give him some credit for getting the achievement. However, the cheating starts to get downright hilarious at the nearby blaze spawner, because at a first glance, it may look like the runner is collecting blaze rods extremely quickly, and without an ounce of suspicious activity. However, do you remember how earlier in the speedrun, I pointed out the runner's friend switching from a sandstone skin to a nether brick skin? Well, when the runner turns around in the blaze spawner room, oh my gosh. You can literally see the runner's friend blending in with his surroundings once again. And just moments later, he accidentally reveals he's holding blaze rods in his hands. Meaning the only reason the runner was collecting blaze rods so quickly was because his friend was secretly throwing him extra while we weren't looking. So, after collecting 7 blaze rods, mostly coming from his friend, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a bastion. And this speedrunner must have the same idea, because he quickly leaves the fortress and begins his search. But on his way, what? The runner finds a giant Minecraft creeper statue. What in the world? Wait, Did the speedrunner's friend build this? Well, while you may be thinking this statue is incredibly unimportant, it actually serves one single purpose, and that is to be a distraction. Because while the runner is pretending to be mesmerized by the statue, take a good look into the right corner of the screen, where a bastion suddenly appears out of thin air. Wait a second, what? And not only does this prove that this statue was a distraction, but genuinely, how in the world did a bastion just generate out of nowhere? I'm so confused. Well, after a bastion literally spawns out of thin air, the runner of course heads towards it. And to my surprise, despite it spawning out of nowhere, the bastion itself is actually completely normal, as the runner collects gold blocks, turns them into ingots, and finds a group of piglins. Everything a normal Minecraft speedrunner would do. But I think I might have spoke just slightly too soon. Because when the runner turns around, are you kidding me? This is the goofiest piglin that I've ever seen in Minecraft. Because not only is he made out of pink wool and crimson fences, but the runner has somehow created a custom Minecraft painting that is supposed to be the piglin's head. And you know what? I will give credit to the runner, because this quote-unquote piglin is actually pretty hilarious. Well, because this piglin is definitely not real, it's more than obvious it can't trade. What? Did you just see that? This Wish.com piglin actually starts to throw items directly at the speedrunner. Seriously, how is that possible? But there's still more. Because this piglin gives the runner a full stack of ender pearls, meaning the runner doesn't even have to worry about any of the real piglins and can already leave the bastion. That was insane. Well, after the runner collects a full stack of ender pearls, he has actually made one giant mistake. Because although he did get very lucky with his trades, you'll actually notice he didn't get that lucky with obsidian, because he notices that he only has 5 blocks, which is half the amount you need to build a nether portal. But this doesn't seem to be a huge problem for the runner, because he starts to build one of the goofiest looking portals that I've ever seen. Seriously, the speedrunner alternates between blocks of obsidian and pieces of blackstone. Is this guy new to Minecraft? This portal clearly won't work. Well, the runner insists on pulling out flint and steel anyway, where he tries to light the portal multiple times, but clearly can't. But that's when he starts to type in chat, claiming that he has an idea. What idea could he possibly have? There is physically no way he's going to light this portal. Well, do you remember back near the very start of the speedrun, when the runner found this rainbow slime ball in a desert pyramid chest? Well, the runner decides to pull out that item. And when he tries to light the portal this time, oh my gosh, he actually manages to light the nether portal despite half of the blocks literally being blackstone. And when he hovers over this rainbow slime ball, he actually reveals that it's called the magical portal igniter. Well, the runner somehow lights the portal, enters it, and makes his way back into the overworld. And right away, there's something incredibly suspicious about the speedrunner spawn, because let's replay the footage and take a very close look at what just happened. Could you catch it? Well, as the runner is spawning into the overworld, notice how the durability on his iron pickaxe completely changes, which is very strange, considering it's impossible for an item to change durability between loading screens, which leads me to believe the runner has made some sort of cut in his recording, and this will make a lot more sense in a few seconds. Well, the runner spawns back into the overworld, and after using the process of triangulation, he seems to think the stronghold is located under this very block. And to my surprise, the runner is actually correct, because he eventually falls straight down into the stronghold. But did you catch what was obviously fake about this part of the run? Well, if you've been paying attention, you'll actually notice the runner only mines cobblestone blocks on the way to the stronghold. Here's the problem. Cobblestone blocks only spawn naturally in generated structures like a village or a mansion, but never spawn naturally in the ground. Which means the only way these cobblestone blocks are here is if they were placed manually. And because the runner's iron pickaxe suddenly lost a ton of durability out of nowhere, this is what happened. First, the speedrunner cut the footage, then dug down and located the exact location of the stronghold, but accidentally refilled in his path with cobblestone, which reveals this entire part of the speedrun is fake, and the runner wasn't actually using triangulation. So, the runner falls into the stronghold, where if you needed any more proof, he doesn't even get the achievement for entering it. However, I can give him some credit as the loot in this chest is actually completely normal, and he then locates the end portal room without an ounce of suspicious activity. But that's when this happens. The speedrunner's friend suddenly appears out of nowhere and manages to light the end's portal without a single eye of Ender. And if somebody can please explain how that's even possible, that would be very helpful. So, after entering an end's portal that literally doesn't even have eyes of Ender, the runner finally finds himself in the end, where to his credit, the Ender Dragon does have full health. He's clearly still in survival mode, and he hasn't gained any weird items in his inventory. But when the runner makes his way to the surface, he starts to type in chat and is typing a very specific command, which appears to be a command that gives the runner an item called the Dragon Nuke. This item looks pretty scary. Well, he quickly moves it into his hands, and after waiting for the dragon to perch, the runner clicks the dragon nuke. What? The runner literally one-shots the ender dragon while he's clearly extremely far away from it, which means this dragon nuke is one of the craziest weapons in Minecraft history. Click a video on screen now to watch even funnier fake Minecraft speedruns.